The message today is titled Beyond What We Can Ask or Imagine. Beyond What We Can Ask or Imagine. And the verse that was just read is a rather short verse, if you noticed. Usually when I hear a speaker preach a message on a short verse, I'm on alert a little bit. And you should be too. And here's why. Because when the verse is very short, it's very easy for the speaker to just start talking about whatever they want to start talking about, right? That may or may not be related to the verse at all. And so my hope is that as I share with you kind of the things I was learning about this passage, that you will, I guess, start to see how the pieces fit together and decide for yourselves whether or not this is the right way of looking at it. But this was a very puzzling passage because it's a very almost mysterious passage. What does it mean? How do we apply it? And that's what got my attention about it. So let us walk through the process that I was thinking through and how I went about exploring what God is trying to say through it. So the book of Matthew is a book that was written to a Jewish audience. So as opposed to a Gentile audience who comes to know about God not necessarily culturally, not necessarily through the people, right, of history, the Jewish people have a rich history of understanding what God has willed, what God has intended. The scriptures were revealed through their people, right? And so culturally as well, there was this rich, tradition of understanding what God, the one true God, is about, right? Whereas the Gentiles, we mix and match what suits us, and it's really by God's grace that we come to know the truth about God. But this idea of, in the book of Matthew, it's written to people who ought to know what God is all about. It's like devoted people who may have lost some of their devotion, but grew up around it and knew it, okay? And so this passage is Jesus talking, and he says, the eye is the lamp of the body. So then if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. Okay, so the eye. We're talking about the physical eye. And Jesus is saying that the eye is a lamp, which is very weird because a lamp projects light, right? And here he's saying, no, the eye, which usually receives light, is actually this object you usually carry around at night to help you navigate. Now, there's different, I noticed that there was different people kind of giving their opinion as to what it means, and maybe there was some kind of cultural reference at the time. But let's look at this from a perspective of just what is it saying? What is a lamp? When it's dark and you can't see, the lamp is what gives you a reflection of your reality around you to help you see and navigate so that you don't run into things, so that you have a path that you can walk on. Without the light, you don't know what is true around you. I don't know if you've ever gone camping where it's really dark and you really can't see anything, or go into a cave. Someone mentioned Grand Canyon earlier, right? So this physical eye, I think, is what being said is what we receive through our eye is a reflection of the outer that is out there that then we are able to process and respond. Without this physical eye being a channel through which we receive our world, we don't know what to do. Okay? And it says, Jesus is saying, if your eye is clear, your whole body will be full of light. Now, different translations have a different word of the word clear. The original word, I believe, is haplus, which is, some translations say clear, some translations say single. I don't know if you're following along on your app, but that's weird. Why would your eye be single, right? Well, haplus is the opposite of the word diplus, which is double. So I think what is being meant here in this language is if your eye is seeing single, not seeing double, if your eye is seeing clearly as it's supposed to be, then you process the world around you correctly, and then your whole body is able to respond to what you process correctly. You follow what this kind of idea is? And then verse 23 says, but if your eye is bad, so the opposite of clear, single, is in this context, or in this text, is bad. So imagine your eye is not seeing single. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you're seeing double or something's wrong. Like I had an experience where it was like, ooh, this is weird. My world is not seeing focused. And I can't do anything about it because now my reality is this kind of fuzzy, blurry, and I'm trying the best I can to respond to that, but this is what I'm processing, you know? And so in verse 23 it says, well, if your eye is bad, it's not functioning as it ought to, then what happens? You're perceiving the world around you incorrectly, differently, and you will then respond, your body will respond based on what information you're getting, which is actually incorrect information about the reality of the world. And he says, if your eye is bad, your whole, and what's the worst that could happen to your eye? You lose the ability to see at all, right? Now you don't have any sense of what's going on out there. In that situation, your whole body will be full of darkness because the reality that is out there cannot pass through your eye, and all you see is darkness. So if that light, meaning the reflection of what's out there inside of you, is darkness, how great is that darkness? It's pretty bad in that situation, right? You got to rely on other senses to be able to process the world around you. You got to rely on hearing, touch, right? Other senses. But you are now at that point unable to use this to figure out what to do next. This is a very peculiar passage. What do we do with this? You know, there's some science in there, some biology, some physics with light, right? And this is where we need to expand a little bit more to figure out, well, where's Matthew, the author, going with this? But store away this idea now of the light, the lamp, the eye. I'm going to expand out a little, zoom out a little bit, and look at where is this teaching placed in Matthew. So we're going to zoom out a little bit to Matthew 6, verses 19 to 23. Should be up here. Okay. So now, what Jesus is saying, he says, do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves do not break in or steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. And then he goes into this thing talking about the eye. What? Okay, so now here's more mystery. We're now talking about treasures and your heart, and then we jump into this thing about the eye. Okay? Okay, so let's now this is kind of how I processed it. So you get a peek into kind of what's going on with me. Okay, storing up for yourselves treasures on earth. There's two repetitions, right? Treasures. But there's a contrast. There's one is treasures where? On earth. You see that? Treasures on earth and treasures where? In heaven. So we got the two different places. Treasures on earth, treasures in heaven. And what Jesus is saying is, don't store up, accumulate treasures on earth. Why? Because, not why, but these treasures on earth, what is it about them that Jesus is saying? There's moths, which are bugs, right? And rust. Whatever this treasure is that's on earth, things will get to it that'll make it lose its value. You agree? Right? These treasures, thieves, they'll come in, and what will they do? They'll take them away. So you work so hard to accumulate this treasure, and you wake up one morning, and you go to look, and the bugs have gotten in and eaten up the beauty. The rust has gotten in, so it used to be shiny, and then that's not so shiny anymore. It's corroded, it's destroyed. And to make matters worse, someone came in the middle of the night, took it away, and it's gone. So all that work that you put into it, that treasure, it's like wasted. You got to start over again. Right? And so what Jesus is saying here is, treasures on earth, they are vulnerable to being destroyed. They're vulnerable to being stolen. Whereas, on this side, you have treasures, he says, instead, store up what? Treasures in heaven. So one location is in earth, one is in heaven, and these treasures, Jesus is saying, bugs can't get to it. Oxidation, corrosion, the weather, age cannot destroy it. If it started shiny, it'll stay shiny. If it sparkles, it'll stay sparkly. There's no maintenance you have to worry about. And, it's kind of nice. I don't know if you ever had something nice that's, man, I got a lot of work to put into this just to keep it up, just to get back to zero again. And thieves, you don't have to worry about someone getting your password, breaking in, pretending that it's some relative that needs help, and oh, wait, it wasn't really, my relative? Oh, no, everything's gone. You don't have to worry about that. What Jesus is saying is, yeah, there is a treasure that is in heaven that is safe, that is protected. And you can invest or put energy into storing those treasures and have the peace of mind and not have to worry about this disappearing. Whereas over here, you do have to worry about that. It's a very real reality that we have to face this part here every day. Maintenance, things break down, got to fix it, got to worry about people that are bad, have bad intent, take away things that I work so hard for, that our family works so hard for, right? It's very, very real. And then what Jesus says in verse 21 is, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Meaning, there's two locations of treasures. There's the ones on earth, and there's the ones in heaven. And so the location where we put our treasures, where we dedicate our life energy into, whether it be this one or this one, we all pick, right? We all invest in something. We all put energy into something to build something up for ourselves, for our families, for those we love and care for. Well, where we put that, whether it's on earth or in heaven, our heart is going to be there. depending on where we locate the storage of our treasure, that is where we will respond. That is where we will think first and act, because our heart is there. We will be focused there. That is what we put top of mind. Our reaction, our instinct, our plans, our dreams. Is it here or here? Now, what's interesting is then this passage of the eye shows up. And I thought that was interesting. I don't know. Why would then the passage of the eye show up at that point? Think about that for a little bit. I'll come back to it. All right? As I was reading the context then of this passage about the eye, something jogged a memory. It was actually recently, right after I spoke here last time, I went to a reunion of folks that I hadn't seen for like 20 years. It was so good to see them. So it's a faith-based organization or like a campus ministry type of thing that I was part of when I was in college, and someone wanted to get together and do a reunion. So it was like, oh, it's local, so yeah, I want to go see everyone that was back there, and they used this next verse as a theme, and so when I was reading about this eye thing and learning about it and studying it, it was like so fresh. Hey, wait a minute! I remember the theme of this reunion had something similar. So let me put that up. It's John chapter 10, verse 10. So it's a different book, Book of John. This is a kind of a familiar passage for those of us who've read the Bible, studied it. But it's interesting the themes that are in this passage. In John chapter 10, verse 10, it says, the thief. There's a thief. Remember, we just heard about a thief earlier, the thief that comes to steal the treasures that are stored on earth. Well, here's a thief. Is it the same thief? Well, you have to decide. The thief comes, and it's the thief, not just a thief, the thief. There's like this big thief that is the thief. Who is the thief? This thief comes to do what? Only to steal and what? Kill and destroy. So here we have a thief who's doing a couple of things that we just read about in the Matthew passage, at least two of them. To steal, right? Steal and to destroy. Take whatever that was built up, break it down, break it apart. There's an extra word in there now that in this section, that this thief also wants to kill. So is there a connection between what we just read earlier in Matthew and this, John 10:10? That's what I'm thinking. 2 out of 3 isn't bad. Like steal, destroy, and there's a thief. So maybe there's this area here, this zone, is characterized by loss, disappointment, working hard to build this up only to have it taken away. Not only taken away, but also it kills you. It takes away your life. Right? The word kill was not in the Matthew section, but it's here. It's in this group. You work so hard to build this up, and then you realize also that, well, my life is not forever. My energy is not forever. Things die. Our health goes away. We die. That's very discouraging because I need the energy to be able to keep this going, right? But then, in John 10:10, Jesus, who's speaking here, Jesus came so that they would have what? Life. And have it, what? Abundantly. So just like earlier in the Matthew passage, there was this contrast. A kingdom, treasures on earth that get stolen and destroyed. There was a treasures in heaven that don't get stolen, that don't break down. Here we have a contrast. A thief who comes to take it away, all that you've worked so hard for, and to kill you. If not you, those around you that you love and care for. But then Jesus, in this passage, says that he comes so that you would have what? Life. That's what I want. I want a life. I don't know about you, but I want a life that I can be proud of. Like I can say, I have a life. Right? What does a life to you mean? Like if you say, I have a life. It means different things in terms of how it shows up, but I think none of us want to be able to say that I invested all of the years that God gave me building up something that got destroyed. I don't want to be able to have something that I spent all my life, all my years, suddenly get stolen and it all goes to zero. Especially as you get older, there's tragic stories you read about where some poor family, they spent their whole life, years, investing, building their whatever business, their house, whatever it is, and the tragedy is like all that energy, all that detail, attention, sacrifice, hard work, only to have it wiped away by whatever reason, thieves, weather, you name it. But Jesus says, Jesus came so that they would have life as opposed to stolen, killed, destroyed. And not just that, to have life abundantly. Now, I have to admit, I used to think that abundantly meant more, which it kind of does, right? But as I was preparing this message, I was thinking, is that really what God is about? Like what he wants is just more of the same. You follow what I'm trying to say? Like abundance from God's perspective is not meager. It's not having one. It's having 10. It's having 100. That's what is that what it means? Because sometimes I think that's how I think about it. Like God wants to bless me. So he's not going to bless me with one. He's going to bless me with 100, 1,000. Abundance, right? Isn't that what abundance really means? But if there's a thief out there whose job is to steal it and kill and destroy, I don't know if more of the same is necessarily better. That's just more to steal. That's just more that can break down. Now I have more problems. I don't know if abundantly thinking about it in terms of more of the same is the right way to think about it, is what I'm trying to say. And that's where I had to dig a little bit more. And the word abundantly in the original text is perissos, P-E-R-I-S-S-O-S in the English transliteration. Perissos. It's kind of an interesting word. This is, if those of you who like to take these messages and kind of dig more, do like a word study in this word abundantly. I don't think it means more of the same. Abundantly, I think, means, after studying it, it's beyond. It's like superior to, it's better than. Yes, it is, I guess one way to look at it is that, it is more. But it's more because it is actually better. It is beyond what the original was supposed to do. beyond. You expected this, and you got this far beyond what you expected. What was the Grand Canyon, right? You saw a postcard, you saw an internet web page somewhere, it's like pictures, oh yeah, it's a hole in the ground. And you get there, and yeah, it's a hole in the ground, but whoa, it's a really big hole in the ground. You know? I had no idea that the hole in the ground could be that amazing. That's kind of what it is. But it's impressive. It goes beyond. It's far superior to what a postcard or a t-shirt or a website could describe. That's the idea. So I think that, oh yeah, God's going to bless me. I want him to bless me abundantly. And the way I think about it is, oh, well, God will just give me more of the same. Because in my thinking, that's what abundance is. But God says, well, Jesus says, well, you know what? You can have life through me that's not more of the same. It's actually beyond. It's superior to more of the same. But a lot of times we're unable to even comprehend that, what that is like. Because we're trapped in, let's say, this world, this side, where all we could possibly imagine more to be is just more of the same. And what Jesus is saying, no, through me, it doesn't have to be just more of the same, or even the same. It's beyond that. That's what gets my attention. Like, well, what does that mean? Beyond that. I don't even know what that means, you know? But the promise in the text is it's a place where if I store there, whatever I put there doesn't get taken away. It can't be stolen. It can't break down. It's safe. And who doesn't want that? That's what's being promised. That's what's being told. And it's beyond this over here. And that's what kind of gets my attention. It's like, okay, I don't necessarily know what that means, but I think the contrast is pretty dramatic. And I put a lot of energy in here, and I get kind of the same results a lot of times, you know? And I'm tired sometimes. Tell me more about this. And it's through Jesus. Let's go back to the eye. So fast forward or advance to the next one. Now, I think this helps frame and put meaning to what is going on with this eye thing. If you have an eye that can see clearly, your whole body will be full of light. That's what the passage says. Clearly, single. But if you have an eye that's bad, seeing double, not seeing at all, seeing dimly, your whole world around you is a distortion of what it really is. And I think that's what it means, this passage. It's like, what's going on with our eyes? How do we see the world? If all we see in this world is what gets us here, then everything we do will be geared towards getting us here. We need to have our eyes fixed to be able to see clearly, to see what is truly of value. And the reality is, I can't do that. I don't know how. I don't know. And like my default is, oh, this is good over here. Let's go over here and do more of this. Oh, there's an opportunity to get more of this, right? That's my default. I talk about this. think about this, I dream about this. I need help, God, because if it's left up to myself, I will always kind of come over here and feel like I'm making progress, and then it'll get taken away, and then I'm stuck again. And then at some point, I run out of life. And so my encouragement is for us to think deeply about, well, what is my life about? Where am I putting all my energy? All my time? Like which place am I storing my treasure? And how am I seeing the world? Because I have a feeling that, it's interesting. When your eye, like, you literally process everything through this, and that is, there's no way around it. Like, you actually need to switch out the lens of your eye and put in a different lens just to be able to process it properly. And that's what surgeons will do. They'll take out the old lens, it's bad lens, it's giving you misinformation, and they put in a new one, and it's like, whoa. Really? That's what it's been like? The colors are different. Like people when they get their lenses pulled out, but the new one's like, wow, the world is not as brown as, or yellow, or whatever the discoloration that was in the lens. It was like, whoa, everything's different. I see colors differently. That's what people will say. And that's what we need. But we can't do it on our own, I don't think. I've been processing this a lot lately because, as you saw earlier, I got a little one now running around, and it's taking more energy now, and I'm wondering to myself, like, how, where do I need to be? Me and my wife, we talk about this a lot now. He's getting, school's coming around the corner. Like, yes, he's 2, but, like, we have to plan ahead. We're in the Silicon Valley. Like, what does that mean? Like, how many things do we need to do? What do we need to sign them up for? And, right, like, there's so many things, so many lists, and all our friends are doing all these things, and how do we do those? And then I don't know if you knew, but we got another one coming, and so it's like, what? It's a blessing, don't get me wrong, but it's like, we need to do more. How do we do this? And that's the kind of the panic that sets in, for us. I don't know about you. You guys probably got it all figured out, but for us, so what are we doing? How do we do this? That's the struggle that we're going through, and what it comes down to when it comes to this passage is like, well, how am I seeing the situation? Like, what is the lens that I'm using to process what we do as a family? Am I putting on the lens that gets me over here? Then I'm going to do all the things over here, but that's not beyond. That's just what everyone's doing. And what God is saying is, I can get you beyond, and you're going to see things differently with a different eye. But are you willing to see things differently? Do you really want to see things differently? Because you might have to do things differently as a result. You might have to invest your time differently. You might not have to do as many things over here that you thought you'd be doing, but you're going to have to do something differently. You might have to love people differently. You might have to even love people you don't like that much. You might have to make more sacrifices in areas that you feel uncomfortable with. But Jesus says, I will give you life, like real life. And whatever it is you put into this, if you trust me, it's not going to get taken away. It's not going to get stolen. It's not going to break down. So that's what's being offered. It's an interesting proposition. Because this side is tiring, just to let you know, right? And like exhausting. I'm not saying that life's not going to be exhausting on this side either, but knowing that it's secure, knowing that it's safe, I think I'm more willing to put my time into it, knowing that it can't just vaporize overnight. So anyways, that is kind of where I landed with this I passage. In the book of Ephesians, at chapter 3, this is my kind of last passage, Paul says this. He says, now to him who is able to do far more abundantly beyond all that we ask or think according to the power that works within us. To him be the glory in the church and in Jesus Christ to all generations forever and ever. Amen. It's a long sentence. I saw that. I was like, hey, wait a minute. This is a good sign, at least as far as preparing a message goes. I was like, okay, I don't think I'm too far off. Paul says God, to him, God who is able to do what? Far more abundantly beyond. It's that same word, that parasos word is God who is able to do this abundantly, not just more of the same. God who is able to do beyond the same. God is able. Paul understands this. God is able to do, translation, far more abundantly beyond. It's like throw it all together. Okay? Beyond what? All that we ask or think. Like you and I, who see the world through our lenses, we think that God is able to do, yeah, I can sort of see God in the realm of being able to do this, but that's our limitation. That is us thinking that's how it is. That is us thinking the Grand Canyon is what the picture on the website is. And we're stuck in that. But God, put your trust in him. Paul did, and he understands God is able to do immeasurably more than that, far beyond that. Beyond that, what we can even imagine. But sometimes we're just scared. I'm like, I can't. You don't understand. It's really, really hard out there. I can't. I'm stuck. I need to do more of this over here. You don't understand God. But God is saying, no, I am God. I could do beyond what you can even imagine. You can't even imagine it. You think it's that, it's not even close to that. And that's the way out. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations forever and ever. Amen. Is this idea that he reveals himself to us that, hey, you know what? You think you're stuck there? Yeah, you're stuck there, but I am merciful to you. I am giving you a way out. And let me tell you about that way out. Through Jesus. He's the one who's going to give you life, but you have to trust in him. And through Jesus, who paid the price on the cross. If you put your trust in him, that weight that is on your shoulders, that burden, even if you're weighed down by mistakes you've made in the past. Maybe you lost it all in the past, and you're just feeling stuck or saddened by it. Gosh, I missed stuff. Through Jesus, he'll lift that burden. He'll give you a chance to start again and put you in this side where your life will not be defined by this, but he'll remember and he'll hold on to that and he'll see it. But he wants you to trust in him. So that's kind of what I'm holding on to anyways, with just all the things that I worry about for my family and the family to hopefully come in the months ahead. Just pray that I continue to trust in God. And I might do things differently, but to believe that if I invest on this side, that it doesn't get taken away, it's not a loss. The world might think it's like ridiculous. The world might think that's dumb. It's kind of foolish. But that's where the faith comes in. It's like, I'm going to keep going this way, I hope. I pray. And hope that there will be greater joy and satisfaction because this is life. This is not. So as we leave, or as we finish our worship, I want you to think about this question. This is kind of what I'm thinking about. In what ways do you see God working beyond in your life? In what ways? What ways do you see God working beyond in your life? You don't know, ask him. And that's the first place to start. I don't know, God. What does that mean to be beyond in my life, in my situation, with my friends, the people around me? Open my eyes. Change the lens in my eye so I can see these things. Because right now, I'm not seeing so clearly, but I need to see with the eye that you see so that my circumstances are not just my circumstances. There's an opportunity there that goes beyond. Let's pray that we will journey together and be able to share amazing stories of God working beyond in our life. Okay? So let's pray.